Like in basically every other creative art ever conceived, perfectionism in game design is a beast and can be a bit of a pain, especially when you're trying to get something done, but you can't seem to get out of your own head. This episode is about that and a lot more. I spent a beautiful 33 minutes with Eugene, the developer of Katanaut, which is a lovely roguelike inspired by Dead Cells with some Lovecraftian elements. I also enjoyed playing it on stream, so you can find the VOD on my YouTube channel if you want to. Hope you enjoy what's coming up, folks. I'm Anthony O'Wolf. Welcome to the Indie Diarist. Alright, hello everybody and welcome to a new episode of the Indie Diarist podcast. This is Ant, your loyal Indie Diarist speaking, and I've got a bit of a cold, so if my voice cuts at some point in my throat, please forgive it and forgive me. But I'm here with Eugene, who, we met each other through a common friend, I would say, and you were so kind and so interested in coming to the show, and I think, well, as someone who loves Lovecraftian games, I did see something right away in the kind of stuff that you're doing. But I don't want to say too much about you, so please, Eugene, say a few things about yourself, of what you do, where you're based, and what you're working on right now.
Yeah, absolutely. Hi, everyone, and I just want to say, first and foremost, thank you for having me on the show.
No worries.
I'm a fan. I love all of them. I've watched a handful of the podcasts already, so they're phenomenal. And thank you for doing what you do for the indie community as well.
Oh, you're welcome. Yeah, thank you.
But hi, everyone. My name is Eugene. For people that might not know me, I just recently released my first title on Steam. It's called Katanaut, and it's kind of a mash of a lot of games that I grew up with from the 90s and the early 2000s, and then just plucking from some modern titles. And it's a collaboration of all of those kind of things that I grew up with, things that I enjoyed, and put together into one big mashed up title, and hoping that people enjoy it.
Amazing, yeah, and obviously we'll have some time to talk through the project and what you're doing for it and how you've approached it and such towards the middle of the episode, the middle section. But first, before we get into the meat of it, I would like to do a little prologue segment. As you know, it's a little segment where I ask you as many questions as possible within 60 seconds. I'm going to start a timer. There's going to be some music, and the only thing that I ask is that you just reply as quickly, respond as concisely as possible. Just one sentence will do. So are you ready for this?
Yes.
Okay, perfect.
I am ready.
So I'm going to start the music, which you will hear live. It's going to be like quiz show music. And the first question for you is, my friend, what's the first game you ever fell in love with?
Okay, this one's a tough one. This was when I was a lot younger. Legends of the Dragoon.
Oh, right, okay.
PlayStation.
Yeah, know that one by name. If you could only play one genre for the rest of your life, what would it be?
This is so far away from the one that I'm working on. MMORPGs.
Good, okay. What's the most underrated game everyone needs to play, in your opinion?
Heroes of Might and Magic 3 or 4. I forgot exactly which one.
We'll get back to it. Okay, no problem.
Okay.
Pitch your game in one sentence.
Okay, this is what I use commonly. Ninja Gaiden and Dead Space have a baby, but that baby happens to be a roguelite.
I love it. Okay. What's your guilty pleasure game? Something you love but know isn't perfect.
Okay, so this changes all the time. At the moment, it's Noida. It's popular, but not everyone likes it, but I like it.
Okay, beautiful. If you could be a game character for a day, who would you be?
Geralt of Rivia.
Okay. Well, then we are at time. Beautiful. I mean, we went over by just 7 seconds. Beautiful stuff. Great choice with Geralt. And your guilty pleasure game, Noita. Someone recommended it to me yesterday on stream, so the timing here is just insane. We were talking about it on my Discord server, so yeah, that's good. I don't know if it's particularly popular right now, but I've heard about it. I haven't played it yet. I will at some point, but yeah, now it's 2 people in 24 hours, less than 24 hours, recommending it to me. So I think I'll just give it a try. Honestly,
It was meant to be.
It was meant to be, absolutely, absolutely. But now we can relax. We can slow down. The 60-second segment is meant to just get you, get us acquainted with the format and such. But now we can dive into your personal story. And as I always say, these episodes are kind of like diaries. I call them indie diaries for a reason, kind of journals, memoirs, if you may. So I want to start from the very beginning, and I want to know what led you to game development just gradually. So let's start with, what would you say is your earliest or fondest game memory that has to do with video games?
Yeah, absolutely. I think one of my earliest memories happened to be when our family got a Super Nintendo, and I have an older brother, so I was too young to really be good or mobile at games or in gaming in general. So I think one of my earliest fondest memories is playing the game side by side with my brother on Super Nintendo and playing Super Street Fighter 2, I think. But the funny part about it is that when I recall the story back to my brother, when we were playing, my controller wasn't plugged in. So my brother would
Classic,
actually
okay.
be the one. Yeah, my brother would be the
Yeah.
one playing the game because he's 6 years older than me. So he's at that time he's fine. He's
Yeah.
mobile. He's just enjoying the game. And I think I'm playing the game on the opposite end, and I'm just mashing the buttons and everything like that. So yeah, that's my earliest
Beautiful.
fondest
But
memory.
that's a classic. I mean, I think I did it at least once with my little sister as well.
Yeah.
To just not unplug the controller and just play and make her believe she was playing.
Right.
It's the most mischievous thing you can do as a big brother. But yeah, I guess it works. But it gets people into games in a different way, I guess.
Right. Right.
And do you think those early games that you used to play, that do you think they're influencing the kind of stuff that you're doing now? Maybe even Katana as well.
Yeah, I really, really do believe so. So, my upbringing was just nothing but video games, but my realization as wanting to become a game developer came significantly later in life. The, I mean, I grew up on video games, just so many genres, so many different types of games. It was just my primary core hobby, and I remember even making modification scripts for some earlier games that I had, and that was before I even understood what coding was. I would go into some game files or even like basic save files, and just edit things here and there, and eventually when I grew up a little bit more, went through high school and university and stuff, again the realization of coding and programming that came later. I wasn't even majoring in it at that time. I started with physics, and I eventually just kind of lapsed over into computer sciences and realized, hey, this is kind of the core of my identity, and it's been that way for a long time. So again, it was just such a side parallel road to my main road, and it was such an easy jump for me eventually.
Okay, yeah, no, that's really cool, and it makes a lot of sense. Personally, I've always been fascinated by coding. I only started doing it. I published a few games with game jams, but only started doing it more seriously in the past few years. And I remember at the time when I was in high school, I had a friend who was already getting into like app programming for iPhones, and that was back in 2013, 2012, when iPhones were starting to get really popular. Maybe even before then. And that to me, it was like, oh wow, that feels very complicated. I don't know if I could ever do something like that. Now, in hindsight, maybe I should have tried, because my career would be completely different now. But still a writer, and still happy to be a writer. So that's all right.
Mhm.
So you mentioned that that jump for you was kind of maybe a realization moment or something. But when did you realize that you wanted to go from playing the games to making them?
Very, very recently. So this is technically my first title that I have fully constructed and then released. But before that, kind of like what you were saying, I was part of some game jams, and I made some small finicky demos here and there of mainly just exploration-based titles of just messing around with physics and just just exploring the more fun side of it, of just constructing an object and having it do something.
Yeah, okay.
It's phenomenal. It feels good.
It is.
And what happened to me is that I started a project around COVID, and again, it was just going to be the 10th hobby project,
Yeah.
right? But this time, for some reason, it stuck around for significantly longer than all the other hobbies. As 1 year turned into 2, and then 2 years turned into 3, and then eventually I thought, wait a minute, I could probably publish this. Like, this would be really cool to actually put it up on a store because I've already invested so much time into it.
Mm-hmm.
And then I started to take it a little bit more seriously. So that's kind of the end of it.
That's great, and I think it shows one thing that I hear developers say all the time: don't work on your game, on your dream game right away. Don't work on like your massive game project right away. Just start small. Start with those little hobby projects, and then after a while, you will maybe naturally start expanding and putting together everything that you learned. I mean, I don't know if it was exactly the 10th hobby project for you. But it must have been somewhere around that, and it must have been
roughly
like very, very many games into your game development attempts that you started actually thinking, oh, I might publish this, and that probably made a lot of difference. Like, can you imagine developing Katanaut when you were like your first or second game? Like, how different would it have been?
Yeah, I mean, it would have been significantly different, but I fell into that the trope of all game devs where you start with an MMORPG. That's where I fell off
Scope
into.
creep,
Yeah, exactly. Because I can't speak for the rest of a lot of other game developers, but I've had a lot of professional experience just as a developer in general. So I feel like I could have bitten off a little bit more. But it ended up being too much to chew for obvious reasons.
Obviously,
you get into the networking layers and all that stuff, and it's just way too much. And you're going to be 10 years into a project sooner or later. And but that's suffice to say, it's not to say that Katanaut was easier, but I did end up putting a lot of time into Katanaut. But that's because I just found something that I really enjoyed doing. And that makes a big difference.
That makes a big difference indeed. Yeah, I'm sure it does. And well, in all of this time, what would you say is like the biggest development challenge that you've overcome? Like, and what have you learned from that?
Oof. This being my first title, I could say so many things. This could be another 3 podcasts, if I'm being honest with you. I can pluck for the most recent things. So Katana only launched a few weeks ago. Again, my first title.
And for the listeners, a few weeks ago is in late September, because this will probably go live around November.
That makes sense. Okay, so yeah, the release of Katanaut was September 10th. So yeah, that makes sense. There's so much learning that came from this. An incredible amount of learning. I think one of the things that I've been dealing with the most recently is feedback. So feedback from players, given from the lens of reviews. So this is an interesting concept to me because I've worked with hundreds of beta testers in the creation of Katanaut, and I've gotten the feedback, and that's helped massively form the shape in the shell of the game itself, and I'm incredibly thankful for everyone's feedback. The harder bits to deal with, though, are going through reviews of people that might not be able to provide constructive feedback and how to cope with those things. So that's actually something that I've listened to other podcasts as well. So you have a couple episodes on that, and then I've listened to some other podcasts as well about like how to deal with feedback and things like that. So that's something that's actually ongoing.
Okay.
That's
Obviously, yeah, that's a big thing for any developer, and I do have something that I want to ask you later about that specifically, but we'll get to it in a few questions. But first of all, I wanted to tell me a little bit more about Katana, like your vision behind it and what you want players to get out of it. Just tell me about this beautiful roguelike that you've built.
Absolutely. So I mentioned it earlier, this roguelite is kind of a mash of a lot of games that I grew up with and I loved and adored. The premise for the creation of the game is that I've just wanted something that people can come home from a long day of work and they can just enjoy and not get frustrated with. Imploring really satisfying effects and feels is a lot and a big part of that. So a lot of time went into the aesthetics of the game, a lot of time went into the feel and the control and everything, and just the satisfaction of effectively everything. Everything from the layer of the sound effects to the crunchiness of the, of them and the feel and everything. So that's kind of the thing and the main goal of it. I feel like I've divulged a little bit though. Would you mind repeating the original question?
Yeah, no,
again?
it was just about your vision for your game and what you hope players get out of it. But I think you kind of answered that, like, players just relaxing after a long day at work and not being frustrated and such. I think that covers it very well. And the reason I asked you to say a few things about Katanaut first is because I have a pretty technical question for a roguelike developer specifically. So, of course, roguelikes are all about balancing that the carefully designed elements with kind of the randomness of the experience. How do you do that? How was the experience for you?
A lot of balance, a lot of back and forth. So shout out to everybody in my Discord that has helped alongside, and just all the beta testers that were part of the process in general. But this is also one of the hardest things about being a solo dev on a project, is that if I was stuck in my cave just doing everything by myself, I think the game would have been drastically different from the state that it was right now. But everything relied on the feedback of other people. And if I'm being honest with you, the ongoing balance of the game is still very much reliant on the players and the feedback that I get from them. Suffice to say, when you have close to 200 different items that are being that are capable of being played together in unison, there's a lot of balance that has to happen. So there's always been these like funny bits and pieces and times where people have found insanely broken things that allowed them to take my pseudo 40-hour game and beat it in 10 minutes. So there's always been like things like that, right? And I have to dial the notch back.
It's the beauty of games like, for example, the one game that comes to mind instantly is The Binding of Isaac, and how you can do synergies with all the different items. You pick one thing and you pick another thing, and they just somehow work together perfectly. And with all the different, I don't know how many thousands of combinations there are in that game that are possible with all the items that are there. So probably even hundreds of thousands. So yeah, it's always fascinating when you find something like a synergy that really works and makes you somewhat overpowered, or gives you a very interesting way to approach the game. And it also leads into a lot of like emerging gameplay as well, I suppose, because like it's just things happen and the player needs to adapt to it, and it can be different, and the next item could change the rest of your run completely.
Yes. And there's a lot of planning that goes into it too, because you want to have a coalescence of items that cater towards every type and style of gameplay. So if you're a person that really likes to be, hand to hand in front of things and kind of like being super tanky or something, for example, you want to be able to have like bruiser builds. Or if you're more of a person that likes to snipe things from a distance, with high damage, or a person that just likes massive amounts of area effect damage and stuff like that, you want to cater to all of that. And you want to allow people to just kind of experiment and have fun with it. So, to this date, there are still broken things, but I'm okay with that, because fine, you want to allow players to have fun. You don't want to just nerf everything that's good.
Yeah, exactly. So, maybe at some point a player finds something that is like the very low probability of it happening, and they're like, oh, cool. I've just broken the game. It's fun. It's fun.
Yeah.
I suppose it also opens the path to speedrunners as well, who want to try and finish the game as quickly as possible. But maybe you have some in your Discord server already.
I have. Actually, that was one of the first events that I held during the demo, is a speedrun competition.
That's genius. Yeah, well done.
Yeah, well, so the funny thing about the speedrun competition is initially that was kind of my first forte of trying to market the game, because when you look at Katanaut, it looks like it's kind of meant for speedrunners as well. It's very much catered to the casual person that just wants to enjoy hack and slash. But if you really like fast things in combat and abusing movement abilities, speedrunners might enjoy the game. I hosted a speedrun competition. Also to try and get more eyes on the game for obvious reasons, because, I'm a first-time dev, so anything helps. But what ended up happening is it turned into a massive bug bash competition.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, if you want to find bugs in your game, just make a speedrun competition.
That's great advice, actually. Yeah, love that.
Yeah, it's insane. They are the best people to exploit and find insane vulnerabilities that you might have not ever figured that would be in your game.
Amazing,
Yeah.
amazing. Okay, okay. Yeah, no, love that, love that. It's great advice. And I actually now have a bit of a more of a nerdy thematical question for you that is around the Lovecraftian context. Because obviously we're both Lovecraft nerds. I'm a keeper of arcane lore as well. I play some Call of Cthulhu. Love it. Love anything that has to do with Lovecraft. Less the man himself, I suppose. But yeah. And we know that Lovecraftian settings are all about the unknown and making and the protagonist feeling lost and completely lost in that unfathomable and overwhelming knowledge of what's beyond. So how did you manage to give players that feeling of empowerment of overcoming the game, but also making them feel lost and insignificant? Might be a tough question, so I'll let you just think about it a little.
Yeah, that is a tough one. So I would say that the latter part of that question, I would kind of allure it to more of like the lore of the game. So it is a roguelite, so I try and go a little bit lighter on the lore. And funny thing about the lore of a roguelite is that I took so many surveys before I actually began diving into the lore of the game to see how roguelite players felt about lore in a game. 99% of them said, I don't care about the lore. Take it out. Don't make it invasive. So take that with a grain of salt, but the lore within Katanaut is kind of dedicated for that. So if you want to know a little bit more about the backstory of what happened to this supermassive space station that's floating in the abyss, and why the characters ended up there, and what is kind of going on behind the scenes, then that's where you dive into it. And a lot of the power-ups and these like weird things that you run into, and it's in plain sight, so you'll see them as plain as day. It starts to dive into the Lovecraftian themes. The most obvious things are just basically tentacles everywhere and
Yeah,
things like
obviously.
that. And then, yeah. Obviously, yeah. And yeah, you start to get to know the bosses a little bit more, and starts to dive into that. But yeah, I would say that the main exploration of it is centric to the abilities that you start to explore and gain access to, and then also just how the other characters in the game react to you
Huh?
as well
Yeah.
during that setting, because they start to notice that you start to become a little bit more untangled as you progress. Because the whole point of Katanaut is you dive deeper and into the biomes and the levels, but also simultaneously as you dive deeper into the unknown. So things get a little weirder and crazier as you get there.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. No, that makes a lot of sense. It makes me want to try out the game even more, which I will probably do, and more to come on that maybe after this call. We can talk about it. But I do have a. Now I want to go back to what I was saying, like the fact that you had a lot of feedback from players and such. So with all of that feedback, it must have been overwhelming at some point too. But what would you say it was the most memorable reaction someone has had to your game? Something that you
The
really
most
remember.
memorable reaction. This is actually kind of funny.
Okay, yeah.
So I've had a lot of I've had a lot of feedback, and I'm so thankful for that. By the way, I might not have hundreds of thousands of people
Obviously.
that are interested in the game, but it comes from a smaller community, and I just love speaking with people. But this came from kind of a curious person that I guess maybe it was like shy about expressing how they felt about the game.
Okay.
So I need to reel it back a little bit and just explain that a lot of the game is the fact that it's pretty violent and there's a lot of gore and blood, and I spent a lot of time on those pixel effects. For example, I was a little bit inspired by Noida itself by changing pixels. So the blood particles in the game have their own physics. They're their own bodies. So as they splash and fall and fly, they have their own velocities, and they hit things at different rates and splash things at different rates. So there's a lot that goes on behind the scenes, and it's all meant to come together to create this kind of a gory mess. So this person said, I really like your game, but I can't explain why. I think I like the blood and the mess. It's kind of like it's a weird self-realization that they were almost embarrassed to admit.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah,
Obviously. Yeah.
but then it's a little weirder because I'm the developer of the game. I created that and stuff like that. But it's like this self-realization of this person that said, I really like your game. Like aesthetically, it's it's beautiful, this and that. but the most satisfying part of it is the blood.
The
And
blood.
it's just it's weird to hear that. So
Fascinating. Yeah, the visual effects. Well, I guess in a game like that, they do make a big difference. So yeah, it's.
yeah,
I don't think games like, I don't know. I'm trying to think of a big hack and slash. Maybe the first God of Wars, or the first Devil May Cries. I suppose without all of
right.
the visual effects, they would be half of what they are. Not half, because the combat system obviously plays a very huge part in that, but it does elevate the experience a lot more.
Right.
So yeah, and in all of this, what would you say is one thing about your game, one mechanic maybe that you're extremely proud of?
I think it is quite literally that. Yeah. So I mean,
So
I'm so proud
the
of
blood.
many mechanics. Yeah. Well, it is it's one of those things that I've spent so much time on, like an incredible amount of time on. In fact, the premise of the game and how I started the game was based off of trying to replicate some of the effects from Super Meat.
Oh,
Oh my
Super Meat
gosh, I'm probably
Boy.
gonna say, is it Super Meat Boy,
Uh
right?
huh. Yeah.
Yeah, okay. I'm drawing a blank right now,
Yeah,
but I
yeah,
was
it's
trying
fine.
to
Yeah.
replicate a bit of the effects from that game.
Oh, those are beautiful. Yeah, good
Yeah, yeah,
inspiration.
yeah, exactly. And it's like it's weird to admit again, but it's like satisfying, right? Like the little nitty things, the
The
sound
sound
effects that come
effects are
with it, and
also
like
interesting to hear.
yeah, right, right. But it comes together in its own beauty, and that's why it was also incredibly unique too. Um, but yeah, it started with that, and I, I, I might have spent like 6 months alone just trying to fine tune everything. And when you have thousands of those particles flying on your screen, it comes down to CPU optimization. So getting every single computer to try and handle it and stuff. So yeah, I'm most proud of that. But that there's so many other things that I love about the game too.
Yeah, yeah. Well, no, that works. That works, and it's an interesting behind the scenes there. Yeah, the
Right.
and I would expect someone to spend 6 months just on that. By the way, by the time this episode comes out, there's going to be a video on my channel about the whole story behind Team Cherry and Silksong and such. And that makes me think of something that I found out during the research phase for that video, which is Team Cherry loves to spend the initial part of the development just making sure that the feel and everything is just perfect the way they want it, and then everything else is just about adding content. So spending those 6 months even making sure that the feel and the visual effects were just right, then probably set you up for success later, if their story is anything to go by. So I think that's really nice behind the scene there.
Yeah, I feel like I can really align with that. In fact, that's kind of how and where the project went with at first, is just trying to make something incredibly satisfying, and then the content went after. So that's enlightening to also hear too, because I feel like maybe I did something right. So
Yeah, yeah,
that's
no.
nice to know.
Yeah, no, they love to do that. They love to just spend that. I think. Well, what I found out is that they started from the Forgotten Crossroads for Hollow Knight. They made that area. They placed all the bosses, all the upgrades, all the enemies. They perfected the movement of the knight, and then they just expanded the world from there. And then they added maps. They added other bosses. They added other stuff. But basically, the core of the game was made. So they just had to really do everything else and then polish towards the end, and maybe refine some movements and such. But like the pogo was already a thing where I think when the Kickstarter campaign went live, something like that, and that was just 6 months into the development of Hollow Knight. So really impressive stuff there.
Hmm.
But yeah, so well, believe it or not, we're near the end of the episode. Just have
Wow.
a few more questions for you, and one of them is super interesting, and one that I'm personally really connected to because it's the essence of the show. When you think about all your journey so far, Eugene, why are you a game developer? What drives you forward?
It's deep. That's a deep question. I think my answer might be uh, much more simple, though. I think I've invested so much time in playing video games as a hobby that I've just wanted to give back to the community. Um, I work a day job like everyone else, and I think that one day I hope to be able to maybe leave that day job and have this as my day job, in the essence that I'd like to cater to the community. I like to provide to the community and make things that other people enjoy. So I think it's my way of giving back. to everybody.
I think it's not a simple answer as you kind of introduced it as. I think it's very, very deep as a reason to giving back to others and building a little bit of that joy for others. I think it's really important, and it does matter quite a lot. It makes a big difference too for the industry, having passionate people who just want others to have fun,
Right.
So yeah, and in all of this journey, what would you say? I know that you kind of answered that, but what would you say has been the toughest part of your journey so far, and how did you push through it?
Yeah. Well, so I did touch on reviews, but and we can talk about that if you'd like as well.
Up to you. Yeah, no, we have time.
Yeah, yeah, no, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, dealing with critical feedback. So I'm very much kind of a perfectionist, I would say, and that's not to say that Katanaut is a perfect game. It's an ongoing project that will
obviously
keep evolving and will get better, hopefully, with feedback. I'm a perfectionist in the sense that I feel that if there ever was an issue, I can approach it, I can solve it, and that's what I'd like. As a solo developer, I need to know what the issue is, because when you're looking at a scope of, again, around 200 items and all these things being balanced, and you slowly start to forget about what your ledge climbing animation might have looked like, or the effect of one of these things when it hit one of 100 monsters and how it fell, or something like that. However, I guess if people provide feedback that does not have a solution to it, that can be difficult, because I'm a solution oriented person. So I'd like to fix things. However, if it comes in the form of no potential solution, then that can be a little hard to deal with, because I'm always constantly trying to improve it.
Yeah, of course. No, it makes total sense, and there's something about game development and as a craft that seems to attract a lot of perfectionists. I've met many doing this podcast. Yes,
of course.
So yeah, it's just that fine tuning and the feeling of making something work and then making it perfect. I don't think, if you're not a little bit of a perfectionist, I don't think you can do this for a living.
Agree.
Or even as a hobby, maybe, because you would burn out really quickly, or do something that's completely not up to standards, but yeah. And of course, I did mention at the beginning, these are kind of memoirs, journals, if you may. If this were your last note, your final journal entry to the world, what's one message you would leave for others? Could be players, fellow devs, whoever you want.
Ooh.
Well, if you thought the 2 questions ago was deep, here's where I wanted you to get.
Yeah. I'm really tempted to kind of grab from a bag of a bunch of inspirational quotes that I might have read before. We're only here for a limited amount of time. Go do it. Just do it now. Just start it. Whatever it is. Just know that your project is not going to be created within a week or a month, or most likely a few months. Things will change. You don't need a concrete plan for everything. My everything in Katana has changed over the course of the years that I've worked on it. So just sit down and just start it. Just whatever it is, just do it.
Beautiful. And that is a message that a lot of people will resonate with, I am sure. Well, Eugene, this has been a lovely episode together. That's a wrap up on it. But I think it's time for some parting words now. First of all, thank you so much for coming to the show. It's been lovely having you on this episode. And as a last thing for you, I've got just one last question, which is, where can other people find you? And if they do, what's the best way to support you?
Yeah, of course. I'm all over socials, to be honest. I think it's a little different for everybody. I've tried to blast everything that I have on every social. Best place to, I think, reach me is either Twitter or Blue Sky. I have a Discord for a community of people that might want to join. And then the best way to support me, I guess, is just being part of that community, or leaving me a review on Steam, because my game had just recently released. So yeah.
Okay, and of course I will put all of these links in the description of the episodes, so that people can just find you and support you and say hi and whatever they feel like doing. But yeah, again, thank you so much for your time on this episode, my friend. It's been lovely having you on the show, and wishing you all the best with Katanaut, whatever comes next. However the project expands, I'm sure you're going to do great, and your community is going to just just get bigger from here.
Thank you so much. I appreciate you having me. And again, thank you for supporting all the indies with this podcast. I appreciate
Thank you.
it.
That means a lot. Thank you so much. Very kind. Well, folks, what can I say? That's a wrap on another episode of the Indie Diarist, a lovely one with Eugene here. Thank you so much for coming to the show, Eugene. It was lovely having you on and just speaking about all of the things that we discussed during this lovely episode. So, guys, don't forget to support Eugene. Go and check out his game, Katanaut. You can also check a playthrough, like a first impressions playthrough on my YouTube channel. It's from over a month ago now when you listen to this episode, but you can find the VOD there where I played both Katanaut and Noita in the same stream. So just go to YouTube and look up the Indie Diarist and you'll find me there, and subscribe if you haven't while you're there. That's always appreciated, and it does mean a lot. So you can also find other links to support me, including renewed Patreon tiers on theindiediarist.com. But other than that, I will speak to you in the next Indie Diary.